Alrighty. So, Solo, a Star Wars story, um, recently hit theaters this weekend. And yeah, there's been a lot of talks of boycotts, lots of problems with the production, people getting fired, changing directors. They brought in a fine director called Ron Howard, but you handed a shit sandwich and you're expected to make chicken salad out of it. Well, no one's perfect. So I'm on the garbage New Zealand Herald.co.nz website, and they have posted probably a most likely a shill story. We'll find out together. Entertainment. Why Solo, a Star Wars story, isn't the hit Disney wanted it to be? I could answer that question for you, but let's see what this Jake Coyle. That's what I'm going to actually call you, Coyle. Jake Coyle. The largest disturbance yet in Disney's otherwise lucrative reign over Star Wars, the Han Solo spin-off, Solo, a Star Wars story. Terrible name. Opened well, below expectations, with the franchise low US 83.3 million. 83.3 million. That is a terrible opening. That is awful. That is fucking terrible. And I personally don't think that's a reflection on the film itself, but we'll get to that after this brilliant article. 3-day weekend in North American theaters. So that was their Memorial Day weekend. Disney, not Destiny, estimated that Solo would gross 101 million over the 4-day Memorial Day weekend, a figure well below even the opening weekends of much derided Star Wars prequels. Yeah, you know why? I'll tell you why after this. Last week, forecasts ran as high as 150 million for the 4-day haul of Solo. Overseas ticket sales were even worse. Solo, starring Eldon Ehrenreich in the role made iconic by Harrison Ford, grossed US 65 million internationally. That is awful. That is an awful figure. 65 million. 10 million in China. That is really bad. That is terrible. Quite. Of course, we would have hoped for this to be a bit bigger, said Dave Holleris, Disney's distribution chief. We're encouraged by the response the people have had to the film. It got a good cinema score, A-. The exits are very encouraging. Oh, you mean those cinema scores that you said were fake for The Last Jedi? The ones that you said were done by alt-right trolls, but we'll get to that. Solo came in with the Millennium Falcon's worth of baggage, following the mid-production firing of directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who were replaced by Ron Howard. Probably because Chris Miller and Phil Lord probably had ideas that clashed with Kathleen Kennedy's. With the rejiggered production, the budget soared well past 250 million. This film needs to make $700 million, $750 million to break even, to be a success. Every Star Wars film Disney has made at least $1 billion. Continuing back on with the article. But the cause of the spin-off's disappointing performance may have had as much to do with Star Wars fatigue. The Last Jedi exited theaters just last month. That's actually a fucking lie. Okay, in the West, in the US, in New Zealand, in Australia, The Last Jedi exited theaters in like February. Okay, so that's a fucking lie right there. And the stiffer competition from a summer holiday weekend. Yeah, that's an excuse. A summer holiday weekend where everyone has time off. Let's go see a Star Wars movie. I'm sorry that I'm responding to this article already, but there are parts where I just can't help myself. While no major releases dared to open against Solo, Fox's Deadpool 2 moved its release date up a week ahead of Solo. The gambit may have hurt both releases. After debuting with 125 million last weekend. Wow. So nearly $45 million US in the US domestic market Deadpool made. Something that is significantly less popular than Star Wars. The R-rated Ryan Reynolds sequel dropped 66% to second place with 42 million, an estimated 53 million of the 4-day haul. So that's still more than what Solo made. Mind you, these figures are as of when this garbage article was produced by this trash media company, New Zealand Herald. Solo notched the biggest Memorial Day weekend opening in several years, not in history, but it also came out on the heels of a pair of summer-sized blockbusters. Deadpool 2 and Disney's own Avengers Infinity War. Yeah, probably because, Avengers Infinity War was a really good film. Making for an unusually crowded May. Oh my goodness, this is a shill article. But we'll continue. Infinity War added US 16.5 million to its fifth weekend to bring the domestic total to 621.7 million and its global sales at 1.9 billion. 1.9 billion. Both among the highest of all time. Quite. It is a business that is built on momentum, but is also one where people probably are only able to get to theaters a certain number of weeks. Jesus Christ. No, that's not the reason, said Hollis. Fucking idiot. Sorry, but there were also questions beyond the effect of the calendar had on Solo. While reviews were generally positive, 71% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, as if they would dare go any lower, there was little about Solo that made the movie a must-see event. Well, that's what you said about Rogue One, but that still made $1 billion. Worldwide, that is. Fans were skeptical of Eldenreich and uncertain about the dismissal of Lord and Miller, the popular filmmaking duo behind 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie. Unlike any Star Wars release before, Solo was deemed skippable. Well, actually, depending on who you talk to, a whole lot of people think the prequels are skippable, and also a whole lot of people think that The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens are skippable. So not really. We're on a 6, and Rogue One. So we're on a 6-movie. This is happening for the last 6 movies, and it's getting worse and worse. As it arrived in theaters, Disney might have been wishing it had instead made a Lando Calrissian spin-off with the red-hot Donald Glover, the star of TV's Atlanta, and days ahead of release, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy said that Lando's movie is a possibility. I tell you what would have happened. It would have been worse. You would have made $40 million. When the original Star Wars films helped define the summer movie-going experience, Disney released their previous 3 Star Wars films in December. What most hurt Solo was the fatigue factor that's unproven of a May Star Wars film following a December one. But hold on, I thought you said earlier that it was done last month, which was April. So in this, you're contradicting yourself in your own article. Oh, pardon me. I should read ahead. Someone else said that. My apologies to the editor of this garbage article. It's the compressed time frame between the 2 Star Wars films and the highly competitive nature of this marketplace. It is summer, after all. The good news is that the next film isn't until December 2019. Yeah, well, I don't know if that's good news. That's plenty of breathing space. I think part of the allure of the Star Wars brand in the past is that it has been the long wait. Well, no, that's false from my perspective anyway. The time might also be valuable for Lucasfilm and Disney to find a way to counter the diminishing returns of its multi-billion-dollar franchise to help propel Solo internationally. Disney brought the film to Cannes Film Festival, flooding the French Film Festival's red carpet with stormtroopers. The Last Jedi also flopped in China. It was pulled from theaters after a week. Yeah, because it fucking sucked. It was awful. And it had 30 minutes of anti-capitalist fucking bullshit propaganda and virtue signaling from a bunch of rich white people, okay, who bought a franchise for billions and used it to make billions and then criticized and shit on capitalism, rather than focusing on the plot and the characters of your films, old and new. You put that behind your agenda, your message. And that is why that movie is trash. But the movie itself was not the problem. Even though it grossed $1.3 billion, Rian Johnson's movie, worldwide, showed relatively weak legs at the box office while proving divisive among Star Wars diehards. Not just diehards, just people who went to see the movie in general, okay? I assume this is the goddamn person who wrote this shitty article. No, the movie itself, yeah, okay, that did divide us, but what really divided us was what was followed, which I'm going to go over in a minute. The magic around a Star Wars film may be fading. No, it isn't. The right to ship on Episode 9, Lucasfilm, has turned to an old friend, The Force Awakens director J.J. Abrams. He, too, is replacing a fired director after Colin Trevorrow, or whatever. This guy here departed the last fall. Departed meaning he was fired. Probably because, I don't know, he clashed with that garbage freaking director you have. So let's go over this shit. So this is supposed to be why Solo isn't the hit Disney wanted it to be, and it didn't really. It addressed it a little bit down at the bottom, right at the very end, in a brief 3 lines, a brief 3-line paragraph. But that's not really why. The reason this movie did shit is because you had virtue signaling, and people went to see the movie and they didn't like it. They didn't like what you did with Luke Skywalker. They didn't like being lectured about capitalism from a bunch of white, rich, fucking Hollywood shills. We didn't like that. We didn't like the fact that the director shit all over the fans. I mean, Mark Hamill talked about this. We got to think about the fans. No, we got to make our movie. We'll see how that did. And then to continuously dismiss all criticism of the film, not just the extreme ones where the fucking people went crazy. There are crazy people. There are people who boycott shit. Those are crazy people. The crazy people who hated on Rey because she was a woman. Those people do exist, but they are by no means a majority. They're not even a large number. I've never met anyone who thinks like that in my 30 years on this planet. You've gone from $1 billion movie to making 85 million in your opening weekends. And this film has been showed in more theaters than anything else in history, John. Any of your other films. It's on more screens. It's had shitloads of promotion. What hurt this movie, it wasn't even Donald Glover coming out and saying that Lando Calrissian was pansexual, once again changing an established character, once again putting your identity politics into something, into a movie, a children's movie, which shouldn't be sexualized at all, but put into a children's movie. A movie that, see, Star Wars has a diverse fan base already. You don't need to make it diverse because it's already that. The film flopped, not because of Donald Glover, not because of the firing of the directors. It flopped because of Rian Johnson. It flopped because of this fucking roundhead moron, Rian Johnson. It lost $800 million in comparison to the last one. Everything was very positive after The Force Awakens. So for him to come out after making this movie, which grossed $1.3 billion, he came out and said, we need less white dudes directing Star Wars films, which is kind of ironic. If he felt so strongly, he could have turned down the job to do The Last Jedi, but he didn't. Do you know why? Because he got paid millions of dollars and he doesn't give a shit. He's just virtue signaling. He did whatever the hell Kathleen Kennedy wanted him to do, and that's what happened. So Kathleen Kennedy comes out and further divides the Star Wars fans, not just the diehards, by wearing her gender t-shirt. The Force having a gender. Nowhere has the Force ever had a gender. It's a non-gender thing. The Force is female. Once again, you're isolating the men, who are the majority of your fans, but not by any means all your fans. You have millions of women who love Star Wars too. And plenty of those women thought your message was stupid. And it is stupid. So you've got wealthy rich, white Hollywood fake liberals virtue signaling. You've got garbage tier news outlets like the New Zealand Herald talking about fatigue, which is not true. If a Star Wars film came out every week and it was decent, I would go see it. Okay, that is false. If Star Wars fatigue was real, you wouldn't be bringing out a Star Wars TV show, would you? No. It's incredible. Now, as far as Rotten Tomatoes go, let's go check out Rotten Tomatoes. Star Wars The Last Jedi. Where the fuck is... Forget it. It's not important. It got 47%, okay? Solo got 61%, which means most of the people who saw Solo actually liked it. That isn't the point. That isn't why people aren't coming in. It's because of what I talked about. It's because we were accused and called the worst people walking the face of the planet because we didn't agree with your political message and we didn't like the movie. That's it. That's all it was. You know what George Lucas did when people came out hating on the prequels? He didn't come out and say, oh, you just don't like women. No, we like women. We just want good characters. Oh, that's because you don't like women. No, we like women. We just want to have good characters. And that's an example, one of many, of garbage tier shill articles that have been continuously spewed out by mainstream media. And it's sad. It truly is sad. Because it doesn't need to be this way. Star Wars was already diverse. And I don't hate Star Wars. I hate what you're doing with it. But let me explain something to you. This is not going to just go away. What's up, Prodigal? Yeah, I'm not surprised that these pop culture films, I don't understand it. They seem to have a stranglehold on everything. I'm going to do a video about Star Trek Discovery later in the week because that's even cringier. Not as cringy as Star Wars, but it's pretty bad. But yeah, Solo is failing, and they're not being honest with themselves even still to this day. They still think it's a minority of angry white men, although I'm not really sure why it's okay to generalize about white men like that. It's kind of showing prejudice, etc. But whatever. You reap what you sow. Until Rian Johnson fucking apologizes and says, yeah, maybe there were things in my film that I could change. Maybe some of the criticisms were justified. That's what most directors would say, even if they don't agree with that. But you, Rian Johnson, have never ran a business. You've never had to do any of these things, so you don't know how to handle it. Just like Kathleen Kennedy. She's literally been people's secretaries and took over Lucasfilm. Okay? She's been part of teams that made movies like Back to the Future, but she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. Give us good characters. Give us a good, compelling story. Don't insert your fucking your Hollywood far left politics narrative into every single aspect of entertainment, because a lot of people go to see Star Wars and all these things for escapism, to escape the real world. And it brings people together, which is not what you want. So I suspect this is all intentional, because I think Kathleen Kennedy actually fucking hates Star Wars. Rian Johnson talked about being a Star Wars fan, but he didn't know anything about the other films. You just watch him talk. He doesn't know what the fuck happened in the other Star Wars films. He doesn't even know what happened in J.J. Abrams' film. Just look at the one he produced. These people hate you. They hate the Star Wars fandom. They don't understand it. And social justice warriors, much like a lot of the hardcore wrestling fans, they don't pay for shit. They don't go to shit. They don't buy your merch. They don't camp outside for 8 hours waiting to see a preview of a movie like people did for The Last Jedi. They don't do that. So if you reap what you sow, and I guarantee this is not the end, but it could get better. Who knows? I don't want it to fail. I'll see Solo. I'll see it eventually. But am I in a hurry? No. I'd rather go see Deadpool 2. I'd rather see the Avengers Infinity War again. I'd rather go see a good story with good characters, with character building and world building, and a plot that isn't fucking contradicting itself or destroying its own tone with childish humor. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about Soylo, a soy boy story. Thank you for listening to my rambling. Enjoy your evening, and may the gender neutral force be with you.